Bonjour la classe et bienvenue à la leçon pour aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, c'est une leçon de la grammaire et nous allons continuer à étudier le passé composé. Alors aujourd'hui, nous allons étudier the passé composé with être. So last week we looked at the passé composé with avoir, and today we're going to continue passé composé, so it's a little bit of a review plus some extra details that we need with être. Okay, so for today, you absolutely need to take notes. You can make them right next to the other notes you've been taking on the passé composé with avoir, and these are passé composé with être. And then there's a short practice on power score just so I can see how we're doing. If everybody's doing pretty well, I know you're getting it. If everybody bombs it, then I know we need to go back and reteach. Okay, so do the best that you can, take notes. You can only do it really well if you've been watching the video and if you've been paying attention. Okay, so the past tense, le passé composé with être. We've been looking at this grammar point continually since the beginning of this year, even since French 1, and this is just more of a focus in. So here I've taken 3 sentences from the reading that we did earlier this week on mon week-end passé, and obviously most weeks we talk about le week-end passé. So this is from that. Vendredi, je suis allée au mariage de mon ami. Je suis restée à la maison et Joshua est retourné de Shipshewana. So I want you to pause the video and tell me what patterns do you see in the language and then what does it mean. So go ahead, pause, have a little reflection, 10 seconds, and then come back to the video. Okay, so any patterns that you see and any knowledge of what it means? So big clue up here is passé composé again, and this time it's with être. So if we were in a classroom, you would be talking and I would get your feedback. Since you're not here, I'm going to move on, and as we progress through, maybe you might realize and reflect back and be like, oh yeah, that's the kind of thing that I was noticing, which is awesome, and you can give yourself a pat on the back. So last week we looked in more detail at le passé composé, and I want to know firstly what you can remember. So we talked about when you form the passé composé. So here are our sentences again from the beginning, right down here, just as a visual reminder. To form the passé composé, what do you need? And there are 3 dots, so there are 3 things that you need. Let me change my annotate color to vert. All right, so I'm going to show you this part specifically tells us that it's the past. That grammar, that tense indicates that it's the past. This part right here, oops, specifically tells us the past. À la maison doesn't tell us anything, whether it's the past. That could be past, present, future, anything, conditional, anything. This is what tells us that it's the past. And this one right here tells us that it's the past, which is the passé composé. So what 3 elements are all part of that we need? This is a refresher from last week. So firstly, we need what's called the subject, or object, I guess. The subject pronoun, person, thing. So this could be like we have the example below, je. So we definitely like a je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous. Or in that last one, we have Joshua, so we have a name. So something like that, you need that right there. What's the second thing? Okay, so we need a conjugated verb, conjugated. Conjugated means it's changed, right? This isn't in its original form. So we either need conjugated avoir, which we looked at last week, or être, which is what we're looking at this week. And these ones are all être. So you see here, this is, and we're going to do our little table. Let's do our table now. So I want you to make sure that you're pausing the video, writing these in your notes either as you go or take it at your own pace with today's lesson. Last week we looked at a conjugated avoir table. This is conjugated être. Now être means to be, but that doesn't really help us when we talk in a passé composé. Because here, if we look down at this example, vendredi, je suis allé au mariage, if we were literally to translate that, Friday, I am went, that's not what we say in English. So it doesn't really help us to say I am went. Or I am gone, maybe. I am gone to the wedding. I mean, maybe, but not really. So the conjugated avoir être means this. Here it doesn't say je être allé. No, conjugated means the verb has changed, and it changes depending on the pronoun. So this shouldn't be, that should be like that. Je, right here we have suis. So je suis. What else do we know? Je suis. A Joshua A. All right, so we can fill this one in. A. All right, pause the video if you want. Do that table. See if you can remember or know or identify how else we conjugate être for the rest of those pronouns. What about if I wanted to say you? How would you say it? How would you write it? Tu es, il, elle est. Sounds the same. Sounds the same, just without the T. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils ou elles sont. Okay, you might think this isn't going to be that useful, but my French 3s are struggling right now because they still need it. You always will need it. And you never know what you want to say in the future, where you don't want to just always talk about je, and you might want to talk about we or they. And right now the French 3s are trying to use they quite a lot. So these are the first two components we need. Un, deux, trois. So what does aller, rester, retourner, these are all called past participles. Un, deux, trois. You need these three things to form the passé composé. This little section right here without one of those elements is not the passé composé. It's not the past tense. Have je allé is not right. Have je suis is not right. Have suis allé is not right. You absolutely need those three in your formula. This is our formula right over here. Past participles. Past participles, this last one is not a conjugation. You find it pretty easy to look at allé and be like, oh, it means to go, so I know it means went. Awesome. It's easier to recognize than it is to use yourself. And so what we're going to look at today is how to use it. So we've started off with our être. Let's review past participles. So how do we make these past participles? So past participles like aller, rester, retourner, of regular verbs, we need to replace the endings. So all of these are ER ending verbs, right? So manger is our example. Aller is also this example right here. So what do? You replace the ending, which means you take off the end, and you replace it with the accent aigu. So it would be aller, like that. That's what gives us this. Rester becomes rester, retourner becomes retourner. All right, if we take off the IR, what does it end with? I. And if we take off the RE, what does it end with? U. Now you should have these in your notes from last week, so you don't need to repeat these notes. This is a refresher, a reminder, because we always need that. Like every few days, every week, every month, every year, we need reminding until it becomes second nature to us. If you did not put these in your notes for whatever last week, because you're a very naughty student, just joking, then make sure you're doing it right now. Okay, pause the video and go ahead and do that. Je vais effacer, je vais continuer. Okay, so these are examples from the text. You can have these written down too, at least one of them. The reason why I chose each of these is because they're a little bit different. So make sure that you have examples are so much better than just plain grammar. Grammar in context, in this context of a sentence, in a paragraph, in meaning that you understand makes so much more sense. Okay, the big difference that you have noticed with the passé composé avec être is that the past participles agree with subject in gender and in number. This is super important and you need to have this written down. And it's also helpful to have this table copied. And I know you might say, oh my gosh, there's so much writing. You will thank me mille fois after you've done this. Before you do though, let's just try and understand what this means when we say agree with the subject in gender and in number. So when we talk about gender, remember you've done this so much with adjectives and with different things that you see, like, oh, why, when you talk about a color, does it have an E on the end, but then sometimes it doesn't, or whatever. So the spelling changes, sometimes that affects the sound. In the case of this, these participles, they don't often affect the sound. So we can make mistakes in our speaking and nobody will know. But in our writing, it is very clear. So we have to be careful. And you might think, well, I'm a boy, I don't have to care about it. You may be a boy, but you're not always writing about yourself. And you never know if I might ask you to write about me, and I'm a girl, or your mom, she's a girl, or somebody else. So we have to be careful. So depending on if the person, if the subject, and these are the subjects right here. These are the subject pronouns right here. If the subjects are masculine or feminine, this bit on the end changes. So if it's a girl, we're going to add an E. And this only happens with être. You don't need to worry about this when we do it with avoir. Only with être. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. I don't know why. Thank goodness it's only with être, okay? This is a little bit more to think about. And then number means, is it singular? Or is it plural? So, je is singular. Tu is singular. Il, elle, on, well, il and elle is singular. On could be singular or plural. And then these are all plural. Okay. But for each of them, well, most of them, we don't know if they are masculine or feminine. So je could be masculine or feminine. Tu could be masculine or feminine. Il is masculine. Elle is feminine. On could be either. Nous could be either. Vous could be either. Il is masculine. Elle is feminine. Okay, so I'm going to clear some of this off because it's a bit messy. If you don't want me to and you find it useful, then pause the video. But I'm just going to erase some of this off. But you get the idea that there's a lot of variety on whether something's masculine, feminine, or not. The simple rule is if it's female, feminine, you add an E. If it's plural, add an S. So over here on the side, we've got a range of different options. We could either say je suis allé. If I was a boy, je suis allé. Avec un extra E, it would be on the go. Tu es allé, tu es allé. Il est allé, elle est allée with an E. On est allé with an S. Because remember, class, what does on mean? On could also mean like an informal we. Nous definitely means we. So it's plural. So you always need this S. You see how it's not in parentheses? And it could be we talking about a group of girls. That's why we have this extra E. So it could be me and my girlfriends, we went. Then it would be both of these. Vous means you, but it could be, I said it's plural. It doesn't actually necessarily have to be plural. If it's plural, you add an S. If it's vous formal, like you're talking to the queen, by example, then you wouldn't have the S, but you would have the E because it's a girl. C'est compliqué, non? Et le dernier, ils, elles, is definitely going to have an S on the end, but if you're talking about a group of girls only, I'm talking about my girlfriends, they went, then it's just then you're gonna add an E as well. So look at the variety. There's a lot of different options there. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I just want you to copy it down, have it there in your notes. And the more that you see it, next time I want you to pay a little bit more attention. Like that's why she's put the extra E, because she's writing about herself. But when she talks about Joshua, she doesn't add that extra E because he's a boy. So I want you to just start to pay a little bit more attention. And when I ask you to write, I want you to come back and think about, when do I have to add the E on or not? And if I indicate to you, go back and check your notes over these. That's why you've got them, okay? So we can practice right. Okay. A quick recap on the negative. This is the same as last week. To form the negative in a passé composé, you put ne pas around avoir ou être. So here are a couple of examples. Je ne suis pas allé au centre commercial. Nous ne sommes pas allés à la piscine. So the ne and the pas go in the same place, right around the conjugated verb, which in this case is être. So your turn. Here's a question for you. Tu es sorti hier soir? So you're going to write it out again. Tu n'es pas sorti hier soir. The ne and the pas go right here. And you see how, because we can't have ne, we can't ever write ne like that, ne pas. This gets taken away and it becomes an apostrophe right there. Oops. Okay. And you go. Pause the video as you need to. I know I'm going pretty fast right now. All right, so the last couple of things we're going to take notes on is le passé composé avec être. How do you know? The big question is, how do you know if you're using être or avoir? Like, you know je suis allé because you've used it so much. And then you know j'ai mangé because you've used it so much. You never say je suis mangé. So there is a rule. And there are only a certain number of verbs that use être in the passé composé. So last week I said the majority of verbs take avoir, but there are some that take être, and the ones which take être usually indicate this action of coming or going. Probably did my hand actions the wrong way around. Coming or going. And the way that I learned it when I was a kid, and the way that they still teach it now, is all these verbs can spell out an acronym right here, Mrs. Vandertramp. So look over here on the side, Mrs. Vandertramp. So I want you to copy that acronym down in this table. And this is going to be your final table, your final bit of notes that I want you to take for today. And I know there's a lot for ETRE today. But that's okay, you got a study day tomorrow. So I've only done Mrs. Van, but I want you to continue Mrs. Vandertramp. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14. There were 14 key verbs which take être. And I've given you one at the start. So monter is one of our verbs. Monter is the infinitive, which means to grow up. Like if you're talking about growing up the stairs or getting up onto a horse to mount, it's that kind of word. Monter is the past participle. So look how we just have the E accent, aigu. And it means went up or like get up. Okay, so pause the video as you need to and then let's continue. All right, so I use this visual every year with my students because I feel like it's the best way of explaining them. So I want you to place these verbs in your table. So we already just did monte, okay, which you can see is this. So I want you to go ahead and complete the rest of the table with these different infinitive verbs. Then see if you can figure out, actually, don't figure all of them out. Then see if you can figure out the past participles, except for these ones. These are irregular past participles. So when you write these past participles, naître is né, mourir is mort, venir is venu. But the rest, all the rest are regular. Use the images to help you understand, if you don't already know what the verb means, to understand what it means. Oh, there's one down here at the bottom that gets cut off. Let's get rid of this thing. Okay, so if you can see that one on the bottom is rester. Okay, so after you've paused the video and you've done as much as you can, I'm going to go through and explain them to you. So I don't know which order you've gone in, so I'm actually just going to go in the order of the image and you check. So mourir this is the past participle mort, and it means to die. So in the past tense, dead or died. He died, she died, I died. Mourir. Retourner is the past participle is simple. You had it in the example, retourner, and it is to return. So returned. Tomber, that is our past participle, and it is to fall. So fell. I fell over, he fell down. Aller, we should know this one by now. Aller, and it's went. I went, you went, they went. Rester, you also are familiar with rester, and this image is a little bit misleading. Rester does not mean to rest. Rester means to stay. So to stay put. So I stayed at home. He stayed in the car. Resté. So the past participle resté is in English is stayed. Venir, the past tense is venu. And venir is to come. So venu is I came, he came, we came, you came, whatever. So venu. Descendre is, oh yeah, so venu is like irregular, it was up here. Descendre is the past participle descendu, descendu, which is to descend, obviously, or to go down. Like the French use it even if they want to say to go downstairs, or to get off the bus, like to descend from the bus, for example. So descendu. I got off the bus, I went down the stairs. Descendu. Sortir, we've seen quite a bit also. Sorti. Je suis sorti. Sortir has lots of different meanings. So in this image, this guy is exiting the building. Kind of looks like his hair's on fire, but I don't know. He's exiting the building. So sortir is the exit. But it also can mean to hang out, to go out with people, or on a date, or hang out with friends. So however you want to translate that, you can have all of those: to exit, to go out, to hang out. Entrer is just as it sounds. Entrer is to enter, so to enter the building. And rentrer also actually is another one. Rentrer. How many R's do you have? Retourner, rester. Okay, so if you need a third R, that's what this one is. Rentrer. Rentrer is the same as entrer, to enter. It literally means to re-enter, but it's like if you returned home and you went back into your house in the day, rentrer. But it kind of means just to enter your house, rentrer. Arriver is to arrive, so I arrived. That's a cognate, it's not any different. You can use it for lots of things, like when the bus arrived, that kind of thing. Parti is left. I left, je suis parti. So we've been using quitter, like I left the school, j'ai quitté la maison. That's fine, but we also would use je suis parti de la maison. I left the house. Je suis parti. Parti means left. Okay, and then our last one up here, naître, is the past participle né, and right here is indicated this little tiny baby. It means to be born. So je suis né, I was born. So we use this when we're talking about birth, like the date that you were born. Et mourir is to die, so it comes full circle. All right, update your table as you need to. I'm going to clear the drawings. And I'm going to présenter encore. All right, we're actually going to skip over this in terms of timing because I think I might be running out of time with you guys. If there is enough time, then after you've completed this on PowerSchool, you can come back because this usually helps you with what you're completing on PowerSchool. So make sure you leave yourself enough time to use the notes that you have so far to answer the questions in a practice assessment block. So you have question 1 à 5, which are vrai ou faux. And then 6 à 10 are multiple choice. And what you have in a video today will help you to answer that. If there's anything that you're running out of time on, go ahead and do this. And then in the next lesson, your study day lesson, you should be able to complete any notes that you need to as well. Okay. Merci, au revoir. All right, so if you want to stay on with me just a little bit longer and just practice these, I want us to look at how we translate from English to French. So I've given you some sentences which I feel like are very common, they're not obscure sentences. So let's take he went to the party. How would you translate that? He is il. We know that it's aller. And what goes in the middle here? Il est allé. Good. Do we need to add an extra E? No, because it's a guy. Do we need an S? No, because it's just one person. So il est allé to the, à, la, how do you say party? Fête. Il est allé à la fête. He went to the party. Très bien. All right, let's do the second one. We stayed at home. So let's use nous. Nous sommes. How do you say stayed? Resté. And do we need anything else added on here? E, S, just S, nothing. So for this one, we don't know if new is male or female, just a group of girls or just a group of guys or a mix. So if in doubt, just go, not gender neutral, just go masculine. Okay, that's the dominant, unfortunately, in this masculine orientated language. So rester just with an S. How do you say at home? Nous sommes restés à la maison. Très bien, nous sommes restés à la maison. All right, and let's take this last one. She hung out with me. So she is elle. We need the same one up here, L-A. How do we say hung out? Sorti. Now, does this have an E, S, just S, or nothing? Well, it's a girl, so we have to add an E. Is it more than one girl? No, one girl. So just that. Elle est sortie avec moi. Elle est sortie avec moi. She hung out with me. Okay, feel free to copy these down into your notes also. The practice is only going to make you better. Okay. Merci beaucoup. Please let me know if you're having any issues with anything. Complete the Google form, drop me an email, speak to me in class. I would love to help you. But just be aware, it is not simple. It's okay if you're finding it a little bit overwhelming. I bet if I was just to give you these sentences, you could read them without too much problem. The translating is definitely a step harder. You're doing a great job. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.